before court, I could just say I can't talk about that because it's a matter before court. That I consider that to be disrespectful. So I want you to get an understanding.
Well, let me just establish this. You'd rather not discuss whether or not the church grows marijuana in Jamaica or Florida.
We within ourselves know that's not the greatest benefit you can get from it.
I know you have a plant right here.
That's a good plan. Sometimes you got one place, you got 1,000 places where seeds come from there.
All the ways to get marijuana. All the ways in the world. We should leave something in front of there so it doesn't keep slamming.
Really?
Yeah, put another chair there. All the different ways, even unto planting a seed in the earth, is illegal. Therefore, it's kind of touchy to talk about that. Rather than spend a lot of time parrying over that, we should talk about whether or not that's right. Because right now there are millions of people that are in jail because of that same thing right there. There's mothers that should be home with their nursing their babies, and they can't be because they're in jail and the child's in a foster home because the states say that their parents use a dangerous drug and they're not fit to raise children. And yet this society will take young children, give them drugs, give them streptomycin, penicillin, all these harsh different chemical substances in their young tender bodies, and get flagrantly upset at the thought that there are people who use herbs instead of drugs.
That were made for them.
They used to burn their herb man at the stake as well.
You understand that if you take that herb, or this one, or all these different bushes, they're all part of the creation. If you take any one bush and extract one part of it, like how the scientists say they do to make their chemicals and what have you, and you wind up taking 100 leaves, 100 parts of the same part of the leaf, and making some solution, that's too strong, man. The herbs were made by God for healing.
Try to improve on creation.
And the only reason mankind left using the herbs was because of the chemical and drug science.
The doctors have science to people.
Yeah.
Everyone believes the doctor today.
Healers used to use herbs. The word doctor came in after a time, but the healer, the man that used to ride around in the old wagon back and forth from house to house, would use the bush that he knew grew in the different parts of the woods.
The moral benefit of herbs to mankind is like basically the thing that people don't understand in America.
What's your name, by the way?
Brother Love.
Oh, you're all Brother Love.
Right.
But you were David, I thought. But I could call you Brother Love as well?
Sure.
Anybody that talks like Brother Love, you can write him down.
See, the
as
reason
Brother
we
Love.
say that there's a very good understanding, there's an understanding in that. We were all taught by one man. The various ordinances and services and promises of the Bible. Now, one of those promises is the healing of your body from all sin, from all pain, from all grief. The way God does that is through the herbs and through prayer. These are two things that modern science have failed to comprehend the value of. Herbs, natural creation, and prayer.
The Word of God.
As a result, our generation has risen up through experience to know the benefits of the herbs. And now the Coptic Church is also there to show the benefits of prayer. When we consciously smoke, for herbs are the communion of our generation. You smoke?
Right. Prayers
Oh
of the
yeah, I
healers.
smoke some marijuana.
Don't you sort of consider it a communion of our generation?
Yeah, what is
Well, I did it one time, but I'm not so sure anymore.
How old are you, first of all?
I'm 27 years old.
What sort of made you, why did you think it at one time?
Well, you know, the Woodstock generation.
That was a zeal, not according to knowledge. In other words, what's wrong with the world today is that people don't have what is required to come together and work as one, at a personal level, at a national level, and at a world level. The spirit of the herbs in our generation first connected with it caused us to say, we're not going to go to war anymore. It's a very peaceful, a godly communion that our generation discovered. Something that had been used in Jamaica for thousands, hundreds of years, something that had been used in Africa for thousands of years for that very purpose of building brotherhood, which is something that America needs.
All right, let me ask you, did you fill that swimming pool up with water?
No.
Did we use it?
No, because the children went on.
When we first came, there was water.
All right, it was just a roundabout question. I mean, if you had water in there, would you put chlorine in it to keep it from the bacteria?
No.
That's a
That was one of the main reasons. That was one of the main reasons we don't have it, because we know that what happens in a public swimming pool is that they put chlorine in there. They say it kills the germs. That is where all the communicable diseases comes from. The chlorine itself is a deadly poison. It is a deadly poison. And yet through technological deceit and science, they've taught human beings that they can go ahead and use that kind of
Through
thing.
the lack
They say
of
the same thing when they
principle.
put the same chlorine in your food or your water that
Yeah,
you
they
drink.
put it in the
Right.
water supply.
10 years
Sick
later, they say it
ability.
causes cancer.
That's it,
They've
put
never
something
said that
else in
about one of God's natural healing herbs. Nor can they say that because they don't have that element of disease in them. They're what the Creator gave to man to heal himself. And the quicker modern man realizes that, the quicker he'll heal.
Okay. Can I just ask you some questions about this house you're living in and about things that are going on here? You've told me an awful lot about what you believe in and what you think should happen in the world.
Well, we've only scratched.
Yeah.
I know, but let's face it, you're talking about something that's been going on for years.
Right, well, let's just wrap it up then. What we're talking about is the heart of man. The Bible says, at the entrance of the Word, it bringeth light. Now our understanding of that is when you cherish the words of the Scripture and you cherish the chants and the psalms of our doctrine and of Christianity in your heart all the while, and you continually bathe your heart with the herb that God gave for that purpose, you transform. That you do change. You don't become a person who thinks about spiritual matters for an hour or two out of the week or what have you. You become a spiritual person because your heart cleanses by keeping the right things in there. That's why you'll see us talk so much about how we won't go to a gay bar, we don't want to go out and chase after a harlot, we don't want to take drugs, because we want our consciences to be clear. We want to be conscious, to have a clean conscience and be conscious of what we say and what we do. We found all those different worldly elements to interfere with that. And only prayer and a respectful, loving communion with our brothers and sisters as the only good that we can find to replace all that evil. And we consider, we look upon things like masturbation and oral sex and homosexuality as more dangerous than cancer, more dangerous than atomic bombs, because they're in every home. And the scribes and the Pharisees of history, and you're a scribe of this generation. Now the question is whether you're a benevolent scribe or a poison pen scribe or what have you. But the scribes have always been the eyes and ears of the society that they represent. And they go back and they portray, through either direct quotations and plus editorializing, what you see. Now, we have a terrible vendetta against the media of Miami that's coming over here, seeing people smoke a little bit, hearing about a couple of raids, and going back and making everybody think this was a carnival, or that this was some kind of a sideshow, and hey, see how long the Coptics can dodge the cops or something like that.
Make it a freak show.
Well, then a judge ordered a couple of state attorneys down to Jamaica as part of a recent case to take depositions of church elders to learn of the United States. So we've passed through a large number of tests already here in Miami, but as soon as that decision was reached in Miami, not a word of that.
How many of you are living here now?
There's a sister, her children, this brother's a cook, another brother.
Just approximately,
Us about, well, there's one family and 3 people that help her. All of us you see.
This is a church.
This brother's just in town for a while. Another brother's going to be leaving this afternoon. I've got a house in Fort Lauderdale. The next brother lives in South
You see
Miami.
people come here from every corner of the earth.
But the reason that we come here is because this has become a focal point for our generation and the ganja issue. There are millions of people. They say that there are 50 to 100 million people that smoke.
Well, all right, so not all of you live here, but you're all Coptics, right?
Right.
Okay, so maybe there's, 10 people living in this house full-time?
No,
at that
no.
point?
There's
That
a
many?
woman, her 2 children,
more than
6.
6. Okay.
And of those 2 are children.
All right, and you come here to congregate
people
as
live here.
if this is a church and you hold church ceremonies
No,
here.
no,
Right.
now we were charged with that very thing in the court. And the charge was that we were using a property that was zoned for single-family residence for multiple family dwelling purposes, and the judge dismissed that charge. He said the state failed to prove that. We denied that, and the state had no case there. That was an accusation made by the state, which they failed to convince even the judge, and the judge dismissed that charge. And then he said that he gave an injunction against us having regularly scheduled, open to the public church services
But
here.
you have prayer meetings here among members of the church.
Right.
Okay.
And we've stopped allowing the Miami media to come in. The people call us and ask us if they can come learn about us. For most of the last week or week and a half, we had several of our friends who live in Miami Beach going everywhere they could to try to find a church, a church building that we could buy to have our prayer and have our services there, since they said they didn't want us to do it here. And a lot of people are interested in what we're talking about. A lot of people know the Coptic faith is an ancient faith. It's nothing new whatsoever. It's not a question of whether or not we made up the Coptic faith. That's never been a question. It's whether or not we have the true Coptic faith. Have you researched it to that point? Have you done any encyclopedia work and seen the history of Coptic?
Well, I know Coptic goes back almost to the
beginning.
inception of
Right.
Christianity. so-
Right.
And, from Africa
In
and
the
Egypt.
year 451, they had a council. They called it the Council of Chalcedon. This is in the current Encyclopedia Britannica. And at that point in time, there was a division between what they called the monophysite churches, of which Coptic is one, and the Greeks and the Romans. The Coptics telling the Greeks and the Romans that they were preaching two Christs, God up in the sky and man down here on earth. And the Coptics said that is wrong, that's not what the Bible says, that's not what the Scripture says. And there was a division of the church because the Coptics said then, and we declare now, it's not God and man, it's the God-man. That every man has to find that godly principle and that godly understanding in himself.
God and man.
That we are
Same as
made in the
Christ.
image and likeness of God, and we have a responsibility to live that way.
Right.
And when you live that way and adopt that moral, you find the world very repugnant
Right.
and
They
very
say,
distasteful.
But they say that you can't live that way. This
And you-
man's not God.
And you truly, when you're persecuted for the use of a herb that God made, you find yourself in a position of being associated with criminals when you made a moral decision in yourself already not to be a criminal.
Right.
And by criminal, I mean robber, bloodshedder, beat up people, take the next man's wife. You decide just not to do. In the same way, I'm going to stand up. Now I'm going to sit down. Now you make me stand up.
Well, I can't make you do anything.
So you see, I have the ability in myself to overcome even sin and temptation. When I put that in my heart as the chief treasure of my heart, that I can declare that every day. I have stopped sin. I have not sinned. I've learned what sin is. I realize I had sinned. I've confessed my sins, and now I fight against sin every day.
Brother Love, have you all prayed together this morning?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, now...
Not all. Some brothers came after, all different times. Brothers come and go.
Okay. And I know the church is, so we'll use the words well endowed. You have a lot of businesses and farms, so on and so forth.
Have a lot of people.
Do you all work, in things that the church does?
There's a certain set of us that are what you call priests within the church that are involved strictly with the church activities, like myself.
But do
and
you have
several of the other
brothers right
brothers.
here in Florida who say are working on a farm
Oh yeah.
to help support
Farms,
the church?
boats. Oh yeah.
Where does your meat come from? Like you have your
We
meat,
raise our own. We have farms all over the place.
so you have a cattle ranch right here. in
The
Florida.
same place what they call Dunellen. We have a cattle ranch up there.
Long time we gone without meat till we could get our own good meat.
Yeah, we
you
didn't
know?
eat for years. Yeah, eat meat for years
I
up
mean,
here.
We built
Fish
up.
was a big thing.
We built up a herd.
Yeah.
Do
No, it's not
either of
huge.
you work on on a farm or anything that has to do with the
Yeah, man,
church?
we've been, every man's been in all diverse offices, done, we don't limit man what he does, whatever's expedient is what he does.
So you've worked maybe on a farm and done various things
Right,
for the church.
plant bananas.
Do you ever meet with any neighbors around here? Do you ever talk with any of them?
Not on a social basis, as far as going to parties together or anything like
Neighbors-
that.
I don't mean that.
the neighbors
No,
are
just
getting-
at this is the front gate, and
the neighbors have gotten hostile since all the publicity, because they say they want to keep a low profile. They say the Coptic has destroyed that.
Do you know any of the
See-
people right around here? I mean,
Not only on the surface, only just over the little light over the fence reasonings.
I mean, what do you think? If I were to go over there and say, hey, what do you think of the Coptics?
Oh, they
what do
said
you
a
think
bunch
they'd
of
say?
well, we can show you what they said.
You can do that,
They do it in the newspapers all the while.
I may talk to a couple of them if you don't
Oh
mind.
yeah, sure. But I
Be
can
careful how you approach them.
They gave an article. We got
I mean,
plenty
well,
of.
let me put it to you this way. I mean, if you guys were in, and ladies were in Coconut Grove, I mean, you'd still be getting a lot of publicity, but it's not like being on Star Island. I mean, this
But
is
we
the
are on
bastion
Star
of
Island.
wealth and
We are on Star
privacy.
Island.
This is one of the few places where we could do this.
This is where the
That's why we're
mafia
here.
owns half of the island.
You know, you're not gonna see him come in with tear gas and stuff in a place like this. It's a different cosmic. That's why we have to be.
I mean, we're here for a reason. I mean, we chose to be here. We chose, and if you see cars in the driveway, we chose to drive those kind of cars because the police are conditioned not to trouble those kind of cars under normal circumstances.
I didn't even look. You have a Volkswagen
Right.
Buster. What else do you have?
It's not
All
so
different
much.
kinds.
See, we've lived in,
How we get out well,
many
why
other
we
kinds
have
of
it.
settings than what you see right here.
But see, you have to understand, all this thing with the neighbors, we were here for several years, the same number of us, doing the same things, the same volume levels, the same every level, until all of this publicity in Miami, and it came like, when they came over the first few times, we would talk a long time about of society, since they are the eyes and ears of society, that they should tell the people the right from the wrong. And we'd sometimes talk to an individual reporter for a half an hour about moral issues, about why we thought that it was wrong for the government to fight the herd, why it was wrong for society to be so permissive. And it would come like the interviewer would actually even get interested to a degree, but then they'd say, okay, now we want to turn on the camera. Where'd you get your money? Do you grow your ganja? Do you have this? Did we do that? You know, and they go back to the station now, and a news editor who none of them have ever been here, the news editors would pick out the parts that they thought would be the most eye-catching or the most sensational, and we've had editorializing that we could show you if you wanted to see, where people have come over here, seen exactly what you're seeing, nothing more, nothing less, because we don't have time to change coats. I mean, so many people have interviewed us that if we weren't consistent, it would immediately be found out. But people come over here, see the same thing you're seeing, and go back and say that if Coptics are granted their First Amendment right, the day might come that we're going to have to let somebody have human sacrifice as part of their church. That they're so morally corrupted out that they can't see the difference between prayer and a communal use of herb for spiritual communion and for healing. They can't see the difference between that and human sacrifice. And that's the mentality of the Miami press,
That
of the
is
Miami
what
media.
is wrong and what causes the fear in America. From the time you can't tell the difference between the good and evil, you must be in fear.
If
If you can't tell the difference between the herbs and murder, you don't have the right to.
Right.
Your voice shouldn't be so prominent.
don't
You shouldn't be in a position where you can
Right.
influence so many people. Because if you call something good evil, then you'll call something evil good.
Right.
Which is what they've done today in America.
Well,
let us do evil.
what about this? What about someone like me? I mean, I don't particularly. You can sit here and smoke marijuana from now, you know, for 1,000 years. It doesn't bother me in the slightest, personally.
Right.
But,
yourself.
Well, sure. You know, I've told you, anybody
Yeah, I
my age
understand.
is at least, has tried marijuana, right?
Right.
So, but what about people who are older and people who don't like marijuana? Aren't you worried that you feel like that you're getting into a confrontation with the police? They may not want to hurt you, but because of public pressure, they may feel compelled to. Like the public is going to be on their
You
backs.
see, we've gone through some situations here. We've been open about the smoking since last March or April. And we've been on television smoking at least once a week or so, most of the last year, and some stations even ran 5 minutes, 5 nights a week specials, on the church, and they visit us in Jamaica. The police know we're here. The police also read the newspapers, man. They know that the same state of Florida passed a law saying give it to the people that have cancer and give it to the people that have glaucoma. They read the paper, the same Miami Herald I read that said that a truck of a federal vehicle full of federally grown marijuana drove from a federal marijuana farm in either Alabama or Mississippi, I forget which, and drove to the state of New Mexico and gave the state authorities in New Mexico United States federally grown marijuana to dispense to cancer and glaucoma patients as part of the New Mexico Marijuana Health Act. So the policemen have to hear those things, and they take a certain pressure from a few wealthy people that want to sit around and have their habits and what have you and cast aspersions on this herb that God made. But the police aren't idiots. They're young people like yourself.
Right.
So just like
Most
how
of them
you
are
said,
smokers.
most young people our age... Huh?
Michael Harrison.
Well, someone can talk to them, just tell them what's going on. Most people your age, whether they happen to... All right. You see the Dauntless over there? The big Coast Guard boat? They busted 7 guys on the Dauntless in May or June.
Uh,
They were interviewing them, and the admiral or the head of the ship says that the Coast Guard is just like the rest of society. Half of society smokes, half the Coast Guard smokes. They interviewed one young lieutenant, and he said, "Oh yeah, skimming is a very common occurrence. That means they go out and they bust a boat, and all the little Coast Guard boys are filling their pockets full of the same herb that they're putting a man in jail for."
the police have done it too.
Well, that's wrong. That I use it and it doesn't hurt me.
They've come. Do they ever sit out there at night just wait?
We've been told by policemen that they've received many, many calls from the same neighbors around us. So many that they don't even bother to check them out anymore about, hey, there's a boat at Star Island right now. They're bringing bags. I see them carrying bags across the yard right now. Now,
This is from the neighbors.
this is what police have told us our
They've gotten
neighbors
calls.
have. They've gotten calls to that effect. Now, I hope you will realize that we have enough intelligence to know that we could be raided at any second, at any time, and we would, if they find a little something here, a little something there, so what? Big fucking deal. They want to go to jail over a quarter of an ounce of marijuana, and for 20 people?
Understanding.
Well, we started about 5:30 this morning at the same pace. We have been shown something in Jamaica. Carl, how hard would it be to set up to August 6th? Well, when we go inside, I want them to see that tape of August 6th. Last year in August, we had a building that we dedicated to Jamaica, and practically all of us from America went down there, and we were there for a weekend. We took some films, and I think you get a glimpse of the civilization that we saw as close away as Jamaica, but true, the Jamaican government fights against the herb the same way too. Most people in America say, well, we don't know what happens to you if you smoke for 10 or 15 years or 20 years. And when I first started smoking, I did not know the answer to that question either. When I traveled to Jamaica, I found out. And I'd suggest that anybody who really wants to know what it's like, go to Jamaica. One of the myths about America, about marijuana in America, is that it might interfere with your ability to have children, right? Well, go see if they don't have what they call an overpopulation problem in Jamaica, where practically everybody uses the herb.
Right, when they're trying to push birth control.
So how could a place like Jamaica, where it's the most common for people to have 15 and 20 children, and they all smoke ganja, when they have no infertility problem, why are the people in America being told that if they smoke they might have infertility? It's a lie. And I'm saying it's a conscious lie. It's a deception by a set of conscious people who have things right now to where they can rob and plunder who they want to, and let go who they want to let go, and give to the doctors what they want to give, and fill the jails and the courthouses, and make a big industry for the lawyers and the bondsmen and the jailhouse and the judges. We're saying that if you think the Watergate was big, or if you think the Korea Gate was big, they're like popcorn at a movie house compared to the Ganja Gate. We're prophesying that the way the American authorities have handled the marijuana is going to cause America to experience something like what Rome did. A total upheaval in their society. And true, it's going to be prompted by the marijuana people. It's going to be peaceful. It's not going to involve bloodshed.
What about the argument that marijuana has been prevalent in countries where not only is it warm, but there's a lot of poor people, they don't have it, and it's a pacifier?
Every country, man.
Any country that fights against marijuana must experience poverty. And that's what's happening to the United States of America right now.
But what about Jamaica? That's a very poor country. That's my point.
Jamaica is the most blessed country in the world, my friend.
money,
The
paper.
earth. No, but you have to understand something. Jamaica's a place where if you drop a pumpkin seed on the ground, bop, it's going to blossom and bring forth fruit. But the people, through politics and through the politicians in Jamaica, the percentage of ganja cases in courts is even higher than it is up here. And up here it's about 50%. The government, most of the police activity in Jamaica is ganja cases. It's selective persecution
It's designed
of
to control the trade, I take it. So the few get
and
rich.
that is going to be the fall of what the Western Hemisphere has tried to establish as government, the same way that Rome is still there, but the power is gone. Greece is still there, the power is gone. America is still going to be there, the power is going to be gone, because this generation is not going to uphold. We're not going to uphold a political, chemical, military, taxation, industrial kingdom. We're just not going to do it.
We don't get any support.
And
from
not
legal
only the
signatures.
Coptics say that. We were educated to be the upcoming lawyers, doctors, computer people, scribes, Pharisees, journalists, baker, Indian chief, every different kind of man. We were trained to take over a kingdom. We were trained to, amongst our generation are the future generals, are the future business executives, are the future athletes, opera singers, chemists, and what have you. And we as a generation are saying, no, man.
To be too corrupt, man.
You don't see how...
There's something greater in store for man than that.
You don't see, there's some common characteristics. And we don't want to try to whitewash anything, or generalize anything, or even hint that people who smoke marijuana outside of the Coptics are less sinful than the people who do. We're not saying that. We're saying that most of the people who use marijuana don't understand what it's for, and therefore they abuse it and don't get the value from it. Because of what? The heart.
Right.
Marijuana doesn't feed your belly. It doesn't feed any other part of you except your heart. And when you set your heart to receive a blessing, you receive it. And when you set your heart to do the works of evil, you do the works of evil, man. The marijuana doesn't stop you from doing evil. Yet it enhances whatever you cultivate yourself. You cultivate the good, it increases the good. You cultivate the evil, you just go on and do your evil.
All right. What about this? You told me that the kids can smoke when they want to. I see lots of little kids.
No, I didn't say that.
You didn't say that. Well, I'd like to get that straight because I don't want to make a mistake in that.
The children can smoke when the parents give it to them.
Oh, I see. So it's to the parents' discretion.
Exactly.
Well, you don't let a child do anything else himself. You have to administer all the things you give him. When you feed him, it's a portion you give him.
Right.
When you give him a drink, there's a portion you give him. If he just let himself at the food, he'd eat the wrong things.
You know the difference between
You
right
get
and
sick.
wrong.
It's soon be sick.
You take a loaf of bread.
Well, what about this? I'm not trying to single anyone out, and I don't want to know what I'm talking about. But this little girl right here, if her parents,
Go ahead.
if her parents want her to smoke, that's okay. If they don't want her to smoke, that's okay too.
We know that herbs are good, and what's good for me must be good for my son. Yet there's an administration. A child can't eat as much as a man.
Right.
There's an
They want to
administration.
do Milky Way candy bar.
You give him a little bit,
Let them do that.
and let him get an understanding of what it is with an understanding. And as he becomes a man, he'll be able to use it
You have to know
himself.
what spirit you compliment, because the ganja is a spiritual
No,
intensifier.
you understand, if you put a loaf of bread on the table and the children come in and you don't have any discipline, they'll just eat the whole thing, and what they don't eat they'll spill on the floor and they'll destroy. So when you leave a loaf of bread there, a room full of children, you come back, all the bread's gone. Now a wise parent will say, all right, I want the children to have some bread, but I don't want to ruin their appetite or what have you, so I'm going to give them each a slice of bread. So you put down what you want them to have, and you put the rest out of reach so they don't have it until you want to give it to them, as a conscious parent. And that's what we represent as Coptic, not a bunch of madmen.
Not only that,
We don't leave marijuana around the house so that the children can just take it when they want to, because if we did it, they like it, they would reach for it and take it. So that's not how it's administered.
we don't administer it for him to go smoke and watch TV. It comes with a conscious understanding, with a reasoning.
Do you watch TV? I mean, do you watch Charlie's Angels or whatever?
No.
Watch the most.
Not what?
In other words, when it's given to the
Protect your
children,
spirit,
it's a time for them to sit down and reason and seek the spiritual things, for it's spiritual meat, spiritual food. Same for a child. It's not for them to go smoke and go play around with.
We watch the
administered
news.
with understanding.
We watch the news very close,
You think that
and they're around us, and they watch the news part very close also, but very little of the other.
Okay. Is this boat over here? Does this belong to the woman who owns the house, or to the
Yeah.
church, or?
Different hers or the brothers is all.
I see.
The biggest one is about 16 feet long.
Is it with you just as it would be with the Catholic religion? I mean, if you drive a car, if a priest drives a car, normally the church owns it. If you drive a car, does the Catholic church own it? Is that the way you would consider it?
Yeah.
It's yours and your brother's?
Yeah.
Even if you might have paid for it out of your own pocket, it's always...
I haven't had what you call my own pocket for a long time.
Okay.
But see, now
Everything's
no?
communal then. Money, everything.
That's the apostle. That's the apostles'
It's administered
tradition.
according to needs.
See,
like the
Coptic.
pants I'm wearing is not communal.
Right, every man has his personal affairs. But Coptic means communal. It means gatherer. The full name of our church is the Ethiopian Zion Coptic Church, the Church of the Living Man. Like this, like that, the gatherer of the people. So we have a message.
It's a blessing with
When you're in your
charity.
father's house, you don't worry about things like that. Do you?
I mean, what's mine and what's his?
No, I mean, when you're in your father's house, you don't worry about
Where the next meal's coming from.
where this car is coming from, or
No, we
Do I
share.
have clothes for myself?
You're happy to
It's
know that.
provided.
When you're there
It's
with
provided
your
for you.
And you're there with your sister, you're in your father's house. If you have to run an errand to go to the store, and Papa's got a car for the family to use, then you have to work out a way to do
This
it.
is set the way it's
Right.
supposed to be.
So when you're in your father's house, all things are provided for your father to know your needs before you know them yourself.
All right.
If your son would come and ask you for bread, you wouldn't give him a stone. You'd give him the bread. And if he asked you for fish, you wouldn't give him a scorpion. Understand what I'm saying? That you as a father have an ability to provide, to nurture, to care, to cherish, to upbring your children in the admonition of the Lord. So that's the parent's obligation. So we administrate that amongst one another as older brothers and sisters,
Right.
and as parents, and as fathers and mothers of our own children.
Right.
All right. But
I
what
remember
about?
a man just like you provided you with that same love and kindness when you were an infant, when you couldn't care for yourself, and when you were a young boy, 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 years old, when you really didn't have any discretion in yourself. Your parents made practically every decision for you, and that's the same applies with ourselves.
Have you had the experience where, I'm sure in Jamaica they've had the experience, but perhaps here, where a child is, I know you consider coming of age when you grow a beard, but, all right, a child's grown a beard and says, I want to leave the church. Would it be just like in what we call a straight home and in suburban Hollywood, where the kid says, I want to leave, like Michael Aronson says, I want to leave home and go to the Coptic church, and the parents get very upset. What's the normal reaction here if the child wants to leave?
Deal with force, man. This is a free will doctrine.
There's some of the children of some of the highest priests in the church go to public school because the wife wants them to and feels that that's a better way. The children of the woman who lives here, we have a tutor come in.
But is it
Tutor.
difficult? Let's say the child loves the parents, wants to stay
That's
with
you're
them.
talking about a very rare isolated
It's
case.
a personal, isolated
Right.
case, so we don't
Right.
really have any. If it would happen with me and my family, I'd be able to give you an answer to that. But it's not a common occurrence. No, I couldn't sit and give you one example.
You have to teach your children before they get to the age that they have to make the decision themselves.
And that's
This is something we
something
share.
else too. You have to understand within the Coptic Church, within the history of the Scripture and the Scripture, the understanding of the Scriptures in this present generation. Not every man is a bishop. Not every man is a priest. Some are teachers. Some brothers cook. Some brothers care for the boat. Some brothers care for the yard. Some brothers do have outside work.
Do you mow your own grass here and everything? I mean,
No,
you
we
know-
have a man that can do it.
Cuban
There was a man
does
that was doing it for the previous owner, so we just had him continue. What I'm trying to show you is that, like, you're talking to me, and I would be free to sit here and talk to you straight through the day, whereas other brothers, you might see them for an hour and then they're gone back with their responsibilities.
All right. How about this? I have a friend, and he was in Vietnam, and he has problems since he's come back. A lot of guys do. And marijuana, for whatever reason, seems to make it worse. You know, he gets.
I'll tell you why.
Causes the problems over there is the blood that was shed.
No, I agree, but I'm saying that the marijuana makes
intensifier.
it intensifies his problem.
In
Exactly.
other words, if there's something in your heart and you smoke marijuana, it brings it to the surface. Man has to face and deal with that. And that's what we deal with those problems that manifest and can cause you to feel pain and suffering in your own spirit. It's caused for a reason. There's reason for that conscience being seared and man feeling guilt within himself.
Is Lance here?
No, he's not.
There's a brother here that was a sergeant. He's a brother now, but 10, 12 years ago, he was a sergeant in Vietnam. And he probably had a similar experience to what your friend had and to what millions of people have had. And if you remember a little while ago, we talked about when you smoke, it intensifies what's already in your heart. And it is wrong for a man to shed blood. Even if you put on a uniform and do it, it's still wrong. Even if the president says go do it, it's still wrong.
God says do not kill.
And these are evil spirits that man have, by force of circumstance and condition, have been forced to partake
Deception.
of. Men of our generation who are the same as we, man. But just they didn't find a way out, or their number came up or something, and they went and they shed blood and they chopped off bodies and they blew up cities. That's wrong. And those spirits, it's going to prove that your conscience is something that's a very real part of you. And when the people smoke and partake of the herb revives your mental equilibrium. And it brings back things into focus. And you have to look upon things through a pure perspective now. When you start to smoke, and if you've got all those things troubling your spirit, it's going to make it like it's bad to smoke. Now the question is the smoking wrong, or is what he did wrong? and he's getting a beating and a punishment in his spirit for what he did, and until he finds a release, he can either stop smoking, and some of those things will fade back into the background. He can cloud it with present day issues or something, that he's going to have to face that.
Okay. Here's I guess this is unlikely that this is so, but is there anybody among you or anybody who visits here frequently who has, let's say, relinquished millions of dollars and joined your church? Does that happen?
Practically every one of us. Practically every one of us, although we came from every different walk of life, practically every one of us was at our wit's end when we first heard about this, and had already done that years before. I left a job as a vice president of the company. And other brothers, a distant relative of
Brothers from all the big categories.
owns one of the big corporations that's a household word in America, but had been put off by his family through the marijuana. My father told me to get out of this house, you and that goddamn stuff, get out of here. And I said, Dad, why are you saying something that God made? Why are you saying that God damned it? And he said, because I don't know what it is.
Well, what'd your dad do?
He was with RCA Victor. He's retired now.
Okay, I mean, you must have come from an upper middle class background.
I came from struggling. Both my parents were on welfare as children. My father didn't go to college. He was accepted, but he didn't get to go. They were children of the Depression. And when you talk about Jamaica Plain is very, very low caliber of life. And we left, as I got older, as I was growing up, my father was advancing in the business, so our life got a little freer only in my late teens and early 20s. In the earlier part, it was just very common, very low. But that's me. I mean, other brothers came from direct Apalachicola poverty, and others came from mansions. But there's no one's come and said, oh, this is it, here's my trust fund, no, man, we don't want that. If somebody has those things, that's for them. Do some good with it.
Well, I'm not saying that someone would be required to do it. I mean, if someone wants to leave their money in the bank, that's none of your affairs. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah.
But I just thought it would be interesting if someone had done that. That's always the standard accusation with a church or a so-called cult, that they must relinquish all worldly possessions.
That has absolutely nothing to do with us. 100% no, and if that's if that's any basis by which we may be judged, we pass that with flying colors. Because remember, we're the same ones that a few minutes ago said we had billions of dollars worth of tax problems on the other hand, from a totally different reason. So unless someone's suggesting that we do both those things, that we have something through the marijuana and we also take trust funds from one another, but I haven't heard that yet.
If we took handouts, they would say we were tax exempt.
There's no collection at the Coptic Church. We don't want what anybody has. We want everybody to reflect on the heart that God gave them, as we have done. In other words, that the concept and the understanding that in the late 60s and early 70s, myself and several of the other older brothers that were here came upon something happening in Jamaica that was as unusual to us as what we're telling you today seems to you. And none of us have heard about it. None of us went to Jamaica seeking out this doctrine. Some of us went to Jamaica because of associations with marijuana. Some went because of a desire to eat natural foods, and they thought Jamaica would be a place relatively untouched by fertilizer.
Some went to try and hustle women.
Some heard all different things. Are you gonna have enough batteries with that?
Oh yeah, I just wonder how long.
And they're around us, and they watch the news part of those also. But very little.
That's where we ended.
Okay, is this?
I'm just trying to think.
See, we want you, if we have any choice to make, or any advice to give, which we know you're not required to take. But our first choice is that when you judge us, either as a church or any individuals, judge us morally first, because that's the apple of our eye, that we'll have a proper moral understanding of what we're saying and what we're doing. JP, do you have something else you can do and come back in an hour or something? Because
I'll wait.
Okay.
It won't be that much longer.
Okay.
You said you have pictures.
Great. Carl, set up August 6th.
Yeah.
And
Do you have stills that I might be able to take some?
Millions. Dominions. But I want you to, Carl, can you set up August 6th and then bring the brother in while we're watching that, bring the brother an assortment of the stills?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just going to reiterate a couple of things that.
Set up, I'll just go over to the still.
Is it?
It's in the machine like that's furthest back
Okay.
towards the photograph.
He said it wouldn't be that long. Have you seen our newspaper?
No, I haven't.
Oh,
I'd like to
man.
take a copy with me. But just a couple of things I want to reiterate, just to make sure we got them in the tape. The first one is that you've told me that the children smoke when each individual set of parents want their children to smoke.
Yeah,
That's the way it works.
the thing that we showed you most was you have a loaf of bread. You want your children to have a slice of bread. You know that if you leave a whole loaf of bread in a room full of children, that they will eat it all or destroy it or eat some and break up some and throw away some. So as a conscious person, you slice off what you want, you give them what you know they should have, and you put the rest out of their reach.
And they would normally take it.
They would, well, you know, you normally are doing that because they've asked you, but
Right,
not,
I would never force that. My son would ask.
but not every time they ask you do they get it, especially if they're being disobedient or they've just recently been disobedient and now they want to come
See, that's
in.
the most important thing, is that we administer it to them with an understanding of what it is. It's something that should accompany a spiritual meditation.
All right. If you were to today, you come here today, and suppose you came back tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day, and finally you said, hey man, this is for me. And you started to live the same way, and you started to partake of the same life, and you found the keys to confession of how to absolve yourself from what had happened before, and you wanted to become a brother now. Well, we would expect you very rapidly to learn the prayers and to be able to administer the prayers, so that when you were even home alone, you could pray. You could conduct a prayer service with yourself and one or two brothers, even when you weren't with the main congregation. Yeah, we don't
If
expect.
I wasn't here now, would most of you be praying, or every morning?
The what we call prayer.
Well, I know your schedule. We went
Right,
over that.
but that's what we call oblation. These you can carry with you.
Okay, I will. I'll definitely take those.
That's what we call oblation. To sit down and chant a certain. Yet we look upon this as I'm praying very hard to communicate with you right now.
Okay.
Our life is a life that's predicated by prayer. We always look to the Scripture and reason about the Scriptures and about our chants all through the day. But we have the schedule of oblations that you referred to.
One other thing that you've told me is that when people join the church, their own holdings are their own affair. If someone has $10 million in the bank, if they want to give it to the church, that's up to them. But it's none of your affair.
Exactly.
Okay, so you don't
Most
force
people
to turn their money over. That's not a requirement.
Most people, the most common experience we've had.
Become a member of this church.
Someone will come. Suppose you come now and you say you've adopted the Coptic faith and what have you, and the most common thing we'd experience would be you'd say, well, I want to come spend some time with you down here in Miami, or I want to go to Jamaica and learn more about the church, but I got my place up there and I got a car and I got this and I got that. I would say, go take care of those things, man. Go do whatever you want to do.
Go back when you're free.
Go make a few payments, go sell them, go give them to some, whatever you want to do, just go do it. But if you let those elements remain a problem or remain undone, in other words, you got something to solve with your car,
High contrast.
and if you solve it, it's behind you. But if you don't solve it, it's still in front of you. So it kind of rests in your spirit, and sometimes it interferes with your ability to understand all the spiritual things that are set before you, because that's still on your brain somewhere, So we always tell someone, relieve himself of whatever is a pressure to him. If you want to keep a car, a house, a bank, everything, more power to you. The Scripture says, blessed is the father who has, blessed is the mother who has, and blessed is the child who has for his own.
Let me ask you a couple of questions about this house. I mean, you have you have a newspaper here that you send back to Jamaica so they know what's happening here, or is the newspaper from Jamaica?
No, this is a newspaper that we publish here in Miami. We don't publish it here. We do a lot of the writing here in all different places.
Just one more reason for being in Miami.
It's published in Miami, and we send one copy to every lawyer
It's easy to publish a newspaper.
in Dade County, every doctor in Dade County, every elected official in the state of Florida, every TV and radio station, every law school, most of the libraries, and we've got a lot of response of a mailing list. We also send it to about 500 major.
One of these marijuana rights organizations.
We send them to them. We send them to them.
Have you ever been contacted by them?
There's one brother named Larry Barron of the Normal in Miami, helped us a good deal when we were preparing a package to present to the Dade County Legislative
Do
Delegation.
you know his phone number off the top of your head, or I could just
No.
probably find it out?
No, you could find it though.
I'd like to call him.
But we haven't really met and talked a lot. We've talked over the phone a few times.
And-
We don't agree with the
Last
part.
time I heard Keith Stroop speak, man.
We don't agree with at least Mr. Stroop, but I
Sound
don't
like a
know
traitor.
who else is in Normal who are trying to talk about marijuana and cocaine as though they are related. They're not. Marijuana is a herb, and you partake of it in the same way that God made it. You just make it. You just let it dry,
Yeah.
and then you use it. When you get a little powder of cocaine, a little tip of cocaine represents about 500 leaves.
That was manufactured.
You know, that they took about 500 leaves and boiled it and baked it and put alcohol with it and synthesized it and evaporate it and whatever they do to take.
Sure.
We don't,
Process,
we don't
right.
support
You know,
THC, whatever that may be.
to look upon marijuana
It's not
that
the way
way,
God made it.
yeah, you'd have to take 20 pounds of marijuana and compress it down into one drop of something to compare that to cocaine, but we don't deal with that. You could abuse marijuana that way if you wanted to, but
They're trying-
cocaine has nothing to do with that very pretty tree known as the cocoa tree.
They're trying to take our natural herb right now and make it into a pill so they can call it a drug.
We don't take any drugs. Aspirin to us is a drug. We don't take any drugs.
I, as a man, have a personal testimony of aspirin being one of the world's killers. It's the cause of most ulcers, I'm telling you.
Okay,
Now,
it's very bad if you take a lot of it. I know.
Do you want to shift inside and see the films from Jamaica?
I just wanted to ask you a couple other questions. You make your own films here, right? That's
Right.
what you're doing right now. Well, I mean, I'd like you to say what's
these
going.
are for the outside. The films are most for us to keep as a historical record, and the most present use is we send the films to Jamaica. In other words, these we send out to lawyers and doctors and what have you to the outside world, but the films we make are mostly for our own. When brothers who are out of town come into town, then we can just show them what's been going on, and the church in Jamaica is very interested.
Do you have any kind of? I know that this is a residence and everything, but is there any kind of like cottage type industry or anything going on here? I mean, do you make? You have a farm and everything like that.
See the
Do you do
coconuts
anything
growing?
else here?
See
Yeah.
the coconut trees growing?
Yeah.
Bananas sprouting up.
Not from here. We do other things in America, but not here.
Okay.
Not from here.
Okay, and you say you have a farm in Dunellen, Florida. Is that right?
Right.
Is that? But that would be under a private name, wouldn't it? Or is it?
Everything. See, here's the thing. The concept of the Coptic Church is that man is the church. I'm a
Right.
church.
Man is
You're a
the creator
church.
of all things.
There's no building in America that's known as the Ethiopian Zion Coptic Church. We have a very nice building we just built in Jamaica that you would call a church building. But in the world, you're taught that buildings are holy, that cloth can be holy. You're supposed to bow down if you see a man wearing a certain cloth, or that a little golden box can be holy. We say no.
The Pope kissed some picture the other day.
Or the Pope kissed
Said
the
it was
ground
all-
in the newspaper this morning. That's voodoo. That's obeah. That's witchcraft
Idolatry.
and idolatry. That's been the fall. That's been one of the causes of the falls of all the ancient kingdoms. Was the people
Worship
loved
the physical.
and worshipped the idol more than their own living brother.
The man that brought it. Everything you see here.
For that car
some
man will
man
worship
brought it
was
here.
made by another man.
I mean, man will kill his brother, or man will rob from his brother to get the idol. Man will sell his body to get a piece of paper. Man will give up his moral character and give up his spotless soul to get a piece of paper.
Okay, I'll flip this off. Can I look at these first, or
Whatever you
how
want
do
to
you
do.
want to do?
Whatever you want to do.
After the event for a couple
Right,
years ago?
right. Make the world know what Judge Rog said. Good. Nice one.
This is your church in Jamaica?
Publish this in the Coptic Times.
That's Steve Croft,
Label it.
Channel 10. After
Our
the court
receipt
case,
for
I was
all
telling
the
you,
groups
under
on the
Quebec.
face of the earth.
Where is this?
That's a man named Greg Simpson for
Your
Channel
name
6.
is
This is a man named Ted Place. That's what you should do. That's what you should do. I've got the answer to it now. We're all set. I'm going to show you about the Coptic Church. You ever heard of him?
What is he? He looks like
He's an evangelist.
that's what I was going to guess, yeah.
Ted,
He founded the Miami Christian Youth Organization. He's also established something called Ted Place Ministries. He and I were guests on a program last Sunday night here in Miami. We discussed the Coptic Church on a theological basis, so you might
What's
enjoy
his
watching
name
it.
now?
Ted Place.
Paul Shepherd.
That's before the Dade County delegation introducing a bill that we wanted to introduce for the freedom of the herb for Coptics. Specifically for Coptics. These people are from BBC. They're here a couple weeks
But
ago.
most of your pictures that are, I'm not really so interested in the pictures of news media. I'm more interested in you folks. Is there a picture of you and Judge Barad? take one of these?
Picture of Barad in one of our
Anything you see, you can
newspapers.
take.
You take a picture of the plane in the sky with Coptic times.
I got a picture of the plane.
I also did some skywriting one day. That's what the BBC
Blew
people.
away.
I see.
That's one of the elders from Jamaica. That's two of the elders from Jamaica. And some of the brothers here. Sister love.
Sister, would that be your wife?
No. That's outside the church of Jamaica. The church of Jamaica. There were some laborers in there. That's the chief elder of the church,
What is his name?
Walter Wells.
Spiritual leader.
He was depositioned in the recent court case.
It's a good one.
Spiritual leader.
That's the chemist.
Oh,
Do you dress?
you.
Do you dress like this when you're praying, or do you wear some kind of?
No, we have the garb for only on very special church occasions. There were some in August that I've never worn it for only that one time. Those brothers, the black brothers that are the heads of the church in Jamaica, direct that.
His sister-in-law, right? I'll tell you, I know one picture that they like to have. I probably should have brought a photographer with me, but do you have any pictures taken, like, when you're praying or just small scene, that sort of thing?
Check the TV stations for that.
I know the Miami Herald. Let me look at these ones.
These are all organs. Don't we have organs?
You know, the picture of a man with his head disappeared in a cloud of smoke.
No, what the brother was talking about, I know what he means.
Yeah.
See now, are you talking about black and white?
Well, they can take color. We are only black and white.
Got some
right
good
now.
color shots, man.
We got a lot. We got
They
many
can
good
use
color
color.
pictures, but I
Bring up your portfolio, man.
All the pictures will be returned. All
No,
the-
that's not the question. Like,
I know.
we
I'm
thought you
just telling
couldn't use them because they were color.
No, they can take a color picture and I don't know what they do to it. Yeah, they make it into a black.
That increases our ability greatly.
This is slightly higher level than the company we deal with here. More equipment.
Still taping?
Did you take any of these? Was he?
I took some.
If you can use color also, we've got a million. But we started making these ourselves in black and white for our newspaper. Actually, this issue, there's an issue coming out this week. It'll be the first one we really have out of photographs.
When's he coming out?
Saturday.
What's the day?
Right?
You ever do the editing?
Anybody proofread it?
Proofreading?
Yeah, the proof one is right over there.
Huh? It's still over there now?
It's right now.
Who's read it?
I've gone through it, but enough person looks through it.
Yeah.
It's good. Ready for the next one. Working on the next one. Doing the research. Pope brings kiss of death to Santo Domingo.
The direct kind you're talking about, the communal type, we don't have that right now. Because we haven't, most of this activity has been recently, when most of them doing it when something comes by, you know. That's the sign we have right in this paragraph. It's out of the book of Genesis.
There's 3 pictures of that in there.
That's a receipt for all the green herbs. From God.
Has the Enquirer ever taken a position on the herb?
Well, originally they were against marijuana. I don't know what their stand is right now. They've changed in a lot of things. You never really know what...
Well, we're telling you right now that when you talk to us, you talk about the things that we're involved with, you are witnessing history in the making.
Yeah.
Because we know we've made a decision inside ourselves toward the smoking. We know they don't want to lock us up just for smoking, so they have to do something.
Yeah.
And we've gone way overboard with pushing it out forward by allowing all this media to come in and flooding them on TV for this whole last year with pictures of us smoking day after day after day. Now, that had a lot to do with the wrath of the wrath of the neighbors too.
I'm just gonna look at these ones.
You know what happened too? We took about the 25 best... Carl, didn't we take the best pictures for the paper?
No.
Out of the club, out of the same pile he's looking through?
Yeah.
That's what happened, man.
Coptic Times exclusive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just got them on the small... Yeah, man. You know what happened?
I've got proof sheets like
You know what happened here? We just went through the same pile you're going through and took out what we consider to be about the 25 best pictures
It is.
for our paper. And they're not here now. They're at the printer. We've got them in proof sheet size, but not blow up.
Oh, can I see them? Is that
Yeah.
possible?
Anything you see in here, you can reprint too, man. It's not copyrighted.
And no advertising in there, it's just
Right.
our thoughts.
Except for a few Babylon articles that other people wrote. Took a chance and published them.
Everything all right?
He's got a court case coming up in Miami Beach Court.
What's his name?
Ted Place.
Right.
Ted Place.
Yeah,
What's the
just
name
gonna
of the
say,
show?
but I see JP's code.
He's a evangelist. He's the head of Ted Place Ministries.
Right, something like that.
Ted Place
Ted Place
Ministries.
Minister.
We're gonna see the film.
Famous
You can see it real quick.
youth organizer. Said he
Ted Place
took a
Ministry.
vow to preach against the Coptic.
Yeah, he got very mad after the program.
You probably hear him preaching against the Coptic soon. I hope he tells them not to read the Coptic Times, so everybody will read it.
Is this the way, do most of the women have to dress this way, or is
Cover
that
their
just the way
heads.
Sister Love chooses?
Cover their heads.
No, that just happened to be that day, but they always cover their heads.
They do cover their heads?
Always.
Why is
And
that?
the first book of
Don't wear as many skirts or nothing like that.
It says that it's comely for a woman to pray with her head covered.
Then it's his
He
responsibility.
always have a lot of dress.
The woman's beauty is for her man, it's not for public display.
Okay, I'm just gonna make a note of that. Women always have their heads covered and cover their bodies with clothing.
Because of the, and we
Easy to
find,
read that Coptic.
we find the commandment of the 1 Corinthians chapter 11, which talks about the humility a woman must have when she adorns herself and shows her that her beauty is for her husband. It's not for the world.
Channel board is totally good.
Modesty is a virtue.
Could I see the others?
Yeah, we should go inside though.
Whatever.
Yeah, come on, watch it. We can do that at the same